And welcome to the XRP Minute. This is the XRP Minute. You're joining me for another live stream. We're going to talk about today a little bit about the SEC versus Ripple. There's so much to break down. The teardown we did the other day, by the way, the link is in the description below if you missed that one. But we basically did a teardown on looking at the complaint and kind of referencing it and cross-referencing it with some of the things that Ripple has said and some other notable people have said. So let's get this puppy started, shall we? Let's go.
And now, the XRP Minute with Chip on the Chain.
And we have a lot to break down today. I want to go into I saw some really good comments right off the bat, and I wanted to jump in here. And of course, I will not be able to find them, but what are we looking for here? Let's look in here. I saw a really good one. But anyway, I'll be pulling up comments during the stream, and then if you guys have questions, you can certainly throw them out there, and I'll try to put them up if I can. And that's the best part about these live streams is really your input, you bringing stuff to this, and then obviously people on the watch back will hear the question and they'll be able to go into it. Here, so let's put this one up. So this one comes from Punitions. My first question is, anyone in the SEC own XRP? Sell at 65-ish before they filed? Insider trading at the SEC. Hey, look over there at Ripple. Meanwhile, behind the curtain, manipulation. Okay, that's an interesting comment, but I'm sure everybody's wondered that, right? You're thinking to yourself, hey, any bag holders over there? Because, it's... we had a huge market drop in the crypto market. It wasn't just in and around XRP, but that happened. We had a nice, pretty sizable drop. We saw a lot of things basically go down. But I wanted to jump in here. We're going to go back into the complaint, and we're going to kind of go where we left off before. And again, I think we were at page 14, I want to say, and there's like 71 pages to this complaint. But I think it's important that we break this down and look at it for what it is, right? We can kind of all comment on this and kind of take a look at it and drill down. But what we're going to look at today really is going to be addressing the SEC, looking at Chris Larsen, Brad Garlinghouse, and some other players, and talking about how they're alleging that they funded the company, Ripple Labs, and also how the founders, co-founders were enriched personally, and we'll jump into that. So let me go ahead and share the screen here, but welcome everybody. Let's see, I always like to promote whoever's first in the screen. Who popped in here number one? And none other than, you guys can guess it on your own here. Let me see if I can go ahead and do this here. It was none other than
Come on, man, Berserker.
Yeah, Berserker was number one. Jumped in there, first one in there, and of course everybody piled in after, which is usually what happens. So that's always fun to see as well. So let's go in here. Let's dive in a little bit. Let's take a deeper look at some things that are going on here. And let me share the right screen. I got a couple of them here. So let's go. Okay. So what I want to do right off the bat here is I want to get into jumping back into this. So line 76, in 2017, defendants also began accelerating Ripple sales of XRP because while Ripple's expenses continued to increase, reaching nearly $275 million for 2018, its revenue outside of XRP sales did not. So what they're alleging here is they're trying to bring the correlation to some earlier points that we had made, or they had made here in the complaint, and we had discussed in our previous one. They're talking about the fact that they needed and they funded the company exclusively with XRP, right? So they're saying that they needed this to fund the company. And one of the things that we took a look at is we also looked at the fact that there was other funding outside of that. And I want to pull this back up again too, because we look at this, again, this is all public knowledge here. This is Crunchbase, and if we drill down here, you can see that they had fundings. They had 15 investments, total funding of almost $300 million, 36 investors in total. This isn't 100% correct. There's a couple things missing. Like for example, if we go down on their funding rounds, you can see some of the funding rounds on here. Let me see where they have that here. Let's see. Here's the funding rounds right here. So if we drill down here and look at it, what they're alleging is in 2013 that the expenses of the company were far exceeding what the investment was, right? So if we look at the seed round here, and unfortunately I can't get that all on the page, but the seed round in May of 2013 was 1.4 million. You had another seed at November 2013 at 3.5 million. And what the SEC is alleging here is they are saying that the expenses far outweighed what was actually, happening. And so with regard to revenue, so that's why they say in 2017 they were accelerating it. Ripple's expenses continued to increase, reaching nearly 275 million for 2018. Its revenue outside of XRP did not. So, for example, starting in 2016, Ripple began selling 2 software suites, and this was XCurrent and XVIA, from which it earned approximately 23 million. So it's interesting that we get a little clarity on what we would normally not have that inside look to what Ripple's, we've always been in the dark. What do they charge for the software suite? What's an installation go for? When they sign up a customer, what does that mean? Now we have it. So from 2016, XCurrent, XVIA earned about $23 million through 2019. So over the course of 3 years, and the partners they signed up that were leveraging either XCurrent or XVIA, they earned $23 million. Now, what they're saying here, and the point that the SEC is making, is neither one of them uses XRP or blockchain technology. And I think one of the things that's missing and is very key from this discussion is, no, they're not. But again, Ripple's game plan from early days was to go after Swift, right? Potentially go after Swift. Swift is an old school messaging system. I mean, it probably has less info than you would send in an email, right? Especially if you look at the header info inside of an email and you tear that down. So what they're alleging here is the fact that that they released 2 products, and they're saying, well, neither one of them not only did it not use blockchain, but it didn't use XRP, right? So it's like a little bit of a dig in there, but what they're missing is the bigger picture of what the game plan was early on for cross-border payments and remittances, really at the financial level of a financial institution known as a bank or some other financial entity, which they also get into here, which we'll jump into. And let's see, I was just going through a little bit of the questions here. Sometimes you guys make me laugh with these comments, but let's jump back in. We'll take a look here, and I want to jump. Let's deep dive this thing. So in 2016, they sold these 2 software suites. So they raised about $97 million in sales of equity securities through 2018, and an additional $200 million in 2019. In other words, the overwhelming majority of Ripple's revenue came from the sale of XRP. So what they're saying is, despite the fact they put these 2 software suites out there, they didn't use blockchain, they didn't use XRP. It came exclusively from XRP sales, and Ripple relied on those sales to fund the operations. So this is what they're crafting their argument around, is saying that Ripple, as a company, couldn't have survived unless they were actually going to go out there and sell XRP, right? So they say from 2014 to the end of 2019 to fund its operations, Ripple sold at least 3.9 billion XRP through market sales for approximately 763 million USD. In 2013, at the end of the third quarter of 2020, Ripple sold at least 4.9 billion XRP. These were done through institutional sales for approximately 624 million USD, also to fund Ripple's operations. And this is a grand total of at least 1.38 billion USD in market and institutional sales alone. Now we know that every month they were releasing 1 million, and whatever was sold, and if it wasn't sold, it wasn't. Now the other thing we're going to jump into here is we're going to deep dive a little bit, is the fact that they also they have some other allegations as well that they're saying, try to craft their argument around here, but they're also going into detail about how Chris Larsen, Garlinghouse, and some other players also sort of, they're saying, enriched themselves, right? So they're saying that it had to be this way. There's no other possible way. They're totally not looking at, even though they mention the software suite, XVIA, XCurrent, their whole thing as well, it didn't use blockchain, so it doesn't matter. I mean, it was a product, and we'll jump in. Let's go ahead and add this back here. So the market price for XRP and sales and offering ranged from a low price of about 0.002 per XRP in 2014, and boy, would we all like a time machine to jump back there, right? To a high price of 384 per XRP in early 2018. That's an increase of 137,000%. XRP traded at approximately 0.58 or 0.58 or 58 cents USD per XRP of last week. So look at what they're alleging here. Of last week, when it shot up to 70, I heard it went up as high as like almost 90 cents USD, shot back down to 58, and when they filed this thing, and this thing dropped on the 23rd, what happened? Boom! Everything sort of just collapsed, right? And all of a sudden, you saw everybody's portfolio of XRP drop like insane, right? It just dropped, and so. Who do you think had that direct effect on making that happen? Who was the one responsible for that? There's only one other person that is responsible, and that is the SEC. So they dropped this thing, and look at what's happening. Now you have delisting of XRP on some of the exchanges. You have exchange like BitTrue. It's not a U.S.-based exchange, but because they run AML, anti-money laundering, and know your customer, KYC, they really didn't have much of a choice than to go ahead and make this change. I mean, what else were they going to do? They don't want to pull the heat. Now, the bigger picture we have here is we have Coinbase, right? Coinbase is on the verge of an IPO, right? Their initial public offering. And who's the initial public offering happening through? The SEC, right? So they are in a very precarious position here because what are they going to do? Are they going to what are they going to do? Delist it? Possibly. Or are they just going to halt sales? Possibly. What are they going to do with people, bag holders that already have a wallet or are leveraging the Coinbase wallet or just have money, their XRP on the exchange? What's that going to do? And we saw one of the impacts of people who hold XRP. It got very close to the wire before Flare did the spark drop. Everybody was moving all of their crypto. Everybody was jumping off the exchange because Coinbase wasn't even responding. Then all of a sudden Coinbase said, whoa. They probably saw a lot of attrition with people jumping ship and saying, I'm out. And maybe they moved a lot of their other crypto too. I don't know, speculation at this point. But for them to go out there, and they jumped in at the 11th hour and said, yes, we will support the drop, right? So that was one of the things that they actually said. And let's jump back in over here. Let's go back in. So they also say that Ripple undertook to achieve its goal of widespread distribution of XRP by exchanging XRP for non-cash considerations, such as labor, market-making services. Through other XRP distributions, Ripple paid third parties to assist in its efforts to accomplish widespread distribution of XRP as possible to attempt to develop a use for XRP. Now, I take a lot of liberty with this sentence right here, because here they are once again claiming, and this happens several times throughout this complaint, where they're claiming that XRP didn't have a use case. They had OpenCoin, and then they walked in, and then they had the XRP ledger, and they magically had no idea what they were going to do on the use case. I have to say that one is a little bit far-fetched, right? So they're alleging here that throughout the document they had no idea. They're like, hey, let's create this token called XRP and let's get around to figuring out what it might be used for, right? Well, meanwhile, the few projects out there, Ripple had a use case for XRP early days, and Brad Garlinghouse, even though he came to the scene a little bit later, he's always stated that they're used to do the major use case, which was the remittances, cross-border, payments, develop those corridors, and just like any company, they're going to go ahead and experiment. But Garlinghouse has been very vocal in the fact that XRP will have multiple use cases, and we've seen this already starting to happen, right? We've seen, for example, XRP being used for Forte, which is 100 million in the opportunity, not just for developing XRP, but to develop and create blockchain inside of the whole gaming. Then we had Coil come along, and the whole idea of Coil was the micropayments, right? You could stream payments. One of the great things, the advantages that the ledger has is to be able to stream payments. You can stream these payments, and if you are Like for example, right now we're leveraging Coil on both of our platforms. And if you're new here today, please like, subscribe, click that notification bell. That way you'll get notified when we drop a video. Jeff dropped an awesome video today earlier that basically discusses the whole idea of banks, and he's talking about what do banks think about XRP? Are they that interested in having investors outside of the institutional realm? It's a really good one. He makes a really fine argument for that. But again, if you guys do it on below, you can go ahead and click and get that, and you'll be able to see that. But I want to jump back into the whole idea of this alleged and preposterous sort of a come from. I mean, Ripple can document this over and over again, but the fact that they're coming in here and they're saying, you know, what we might do and what we possibly might do is Ripple just might at some point figure out how to leverage an actual use case. Now, we all know in the community that Ripple's had a use case forever and a day, right? They also go into, and Larsen beginning in 2015, this is Chris Larsen, Brad Garlinghouse beginning in 2017, directly participated in offering and selling their own holdings of XRP into the same market as Ripple market sales, typically following the same manner of sale. So now they're bringing in the executives, and named in this suit is not only Ripple Labs, but also we have named Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larsen, right? So personally, this is where they're now getting into the personal stuff and alleging that the fact that they sold XRP into the same market sales from 2015 through at least March of 2020, when Larsen was an affiliate of Ripple as its CEO and then later chairman of the board, Larsen and his wife sold over 1.7 billion XRP to public investors in the market. Larsen and his wife netted at least 450 million USD from those sales. So this is where they're now, you know, getting into. Early stuff was about Ripple and how Ripple was funding and using that to go ahead and create this advantage by selling XRP, not having a use case, right? This is where they're going. Now they're getting into the Chris Larsen and Brad Garlinghouse. And from April 2017 through December 2019, while as an affiliate of Ripple as a CEO, Brad Garlinghouse sold over 321 million XRP he'd received from Ripple to public investors in the market, generating approximately 150 million USD from those sales. So there they go. There's your two allegations going, and now they're trying to hit Larsen and Garlinghouse pretty big here. They're alleging all this stuff that happened. Like, let's look at this comment right here. So Devon Steve says, hey, they must have had an idea where they were going to use for XRP for. Isn't this some of the part of the reason why Jeb left? You know, that's a really good point you're bringing up there, Devon, because it does have a lot to do with it. I mean, the actual reason he left, I mean, and he basically left to go start Stellar and the XLM token. But the story that I've heard time and time again is the fact that what he didn't agree with was the fact that Ripple wanted to move in the direction of institutional, where Jeb was lying more along the lines and saw more of the use case for the token being in the not institutional, but more in the consumer realm, right? So you'd use it as payments, you'd have an app. And again, there was some disagreement. What the real story is, I don't really know. But that I have to think that it was a disagreement, and they differed on the direction of the company. This is where Jeb said, I'm taking my tokens, my XRP, and I'm going to go build this other thing, right? So he basically forked it and went over and he created the Stellar Foundation, which is set up a little bit differently than Ripple, because a lot of what people are saying is, and it's been alleged that we've talked about this, is what about the idea that, you know, Ripple and you have Stellar Foundation, and then Stellar early days, you know, they also, there was some sales there, but you got to look at Vitalik Buterin, who was basically railing against, you know, Ripple, saying, you know, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. He put out that tweet that everybody got offended with. But bottom line is that what about them moving from proof of work, you know, proof of stake? What about this whole thing what about Ether 2.0? And in 2014, Vitalik put out a tweet saying, if we hadn't had this key investor who hadn't purchased XLM, we don't know if the company would still be around. We just don't know what might have happened. And I'm going to drop a video on the other channel that's going to go in real specifics of that, because it's kind of a rabbit hole thing, but I think you're going to see some correlations. And, you know, I think the big issue that the SEC is going to face here, and why I think this is overwhelmingly going to go Ripple's way, is the fact is that you have the Department of Justice saying it wasn't a security, it was a currency. You also have FinCEN, which FinCEN's more responsible for the regulatory body, right? If you look at the regulatory part that's actually going after, SEC is supposed to be guidance. Yeah, of course they go after people, but they lose more cases than they actually win. Okay, so if you look at, they lose 2 out of 3 at the Supreme Court level. Not a great track record, right? And even the ones that they penalize, yeah, I expect Ripple to get a penalty out of this, no doubt. But the clarity is what we're waiting for. And I forget who put it in the chat, but they said all I really wanted, I didn't know what I wanted for Christmas, but now I know it's regulatory clarity. And that's really what we all want in this whole thing. So I'm sorry I couldn't find your message there, but here we go. Here's Maxwell equation. Says Orange Grove oranges were unique to the skill of the farmer. XRP has no unique Ripple properties, no unique from Ripple versus others selling XRP, no uniqueness, no security. Yeah, to some extent, it's hard. And what you're referencing here is the Howie test, which going back to when the Orange Grove owner, Mr. Howie, he was basically going and attempting he was selling parcels. He was trying to expand his Orange Grove. This is actually in Howie in the Hills, which is what the city that was named after him. It's in the middle of Florida, right by Orlando there. And what the problem with the Howie test is it's so simplistic that nobody could foresee digital assets in the space, and yet we're referencing a 1946 case, and then which references a 1933 case. So, even that's preposterous in 1946, going back to a 1933 rule, regulation. The problem is this stuff's all outdated, and that's where we're at right now. That's really the big issue that we have with this whole entire mess, right? Let's jump back in. So they're saying the defendants, that's Garlinghouse and that's Larsen, they offered and sold XRP to any person without restricting offers or sales to persons who had a use for XRP, particularly given that no to little use was existed until Ripple subsidized some use operations in recent months. And again, this is all going to come undone as well in court. But one of the things that they really go to is the fact that they started moving into another area in their complaint, which has to do largely with the idea that Ripple, not only did they not have a use case, as they're alleging, again, they're alleging this, but they were also saying that the operation itself, they had no restricted use. So in other words, if I go ahead as Ripple Labs and I gift you 100 million XRP, by gifting you 100 XRP, how would that look, if I give you 100 XRP and I say, you know what, there's no restrictions. Do as you will. And so what we're gonna get to in a little bit, they're gonna talk about the fact that they did not restrict it. So they gave it to you 100 million, and as soon as that hit your wallet, it could be sold off. And this is another area that they're going into and they're alleging. So let's jump in here. And I find that to be a little bit kind of it's kind of a real loose sort of a way to come after them. Again, this whole thing, I mean, I'm not going to, I'll make comments, we'll comment on it, but what I'm trying to do right now is really give you a good idea what they're alleging, where they're coming from, and this is from the SEC, right? They say there were, with respect to 4 types of distribution, 1 being market sales, 2 institutional sales, 3 other XRP distributions, and 4 individual defendants' XRP sales. So they're breaking it down into 4 parts here. They're saying that the defendants understood that XRP purchasers routinely resold XRP. Defendants understood that XRP purchasers, these resales align with defendants' own goals of achieving and widespread distribution of XRP as possible. See, so this is another area they're jumping in. Defendants sold approximately 14.6 billion XRP, as summarized in the table below. Now, this is some unique stuff that we're seeing too. The type of sales. Well, we go into type of sales in column on the left-hand column. The right column, we're going to look at the approximate amount of XRP sold and distributed. And so if you look at this, they're breaking it down into market sales, institutional, XRP distributions, and then we get into the defendants. So we have independents for, they're breaking it down from Larsen or from Garlinghouse. Total offering 14.6 billion. They're just putting this into a chart to kind of make it a little bit easier to digest. Now, C. Defendants' market sales of XRP. As the CEO, Larsen initiated and approved Ripple's market sales of XRP. So you see what they're doing here is they're really hanging this on. They're really hanging this all on a personal decision made by Larsen and later by Garlinghouse. So I want to go ahead and I want to. It's interesting because when you really want expert opinion, you got to bring in somebody and. Jungle, you're muted right now, but we have none other than Jungle Inc. joining us. Just go ahead and unmute yourself on the app right there. You should be able to do. There you go. You there?
Hey, Chip. Yeah, I was trying to put you just on my phone so you don't get feedback. Right now it's on speaker.
Ah, it works. You sound great, man.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Hey, man, good to talk to you. I appreciate you jumping in here. Kind of want to get your take on this, but also want to give you a big shout out, man, because when we launched OTC, we launched it on Jungle Inc., and that was like a blast off that we needed. So you never forget the man who dug the well, or so they say. So what is your take on this? I know you've been furiously putting some videos out as well, but some of the stuff, I don't know if you caught some of the stuff we were discussing, but now they're trying, the SEC alleging that Larsen personally and also Brad Garlinghouse were selling like mad just to go ahead and make money and fund the operations.
Well, first of all, I don't think their math even checks out because they're saying, they sold 1 point something billion, but Garlinghouse and him personally sold 600 million, and we know Jed McCaleb has sold a bunch. When you add that up, it doesn't leave enough for what Ripple has sold. In my opinion, this works out long run just fine for XRP, works out fine for Ripple. I'm sure there will be some pain along the way. What really bums me out is we're on the cusp of this big bull run, and I just wonder how much this is going to affect us in the short term. It's just I'm bummed out for the XRP holders. No one deserves this. It's just this shouldn't be happening. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. But I look at the flip side of that, though. Can you imagine? I mean, so here's the question, right? This is tragic because I mean, even in this, they allege that it was around 58 cents on the 23rd, and all of a sudden it crashed, right? It went down to 22 cents. It's a pretty big erasure of the marketplace. But here's what I look at. We get clarity because this is definitely going to bring us clarity, right? And instead of the Howie test, someone brought it up on a live stream last night that we'll have the Ripple test, right? They won't call it that, but it'll be the shot heard around the world for cryptocurrency because you look at the fact all of a sudden there's clarity and you go, okay, it's not a security. Well, what happens? What about you can buy Bitcoin? Let's say Bitcoin's at 30,000 or 35,000, who knows? Anywhere from 25 to 30,000. You want to buy one Bitcoin, or do you want to buy something that's on its way up moonshot, hitting $5, $10, $15? What is going to be a better, investment for your money? Then not only that, but this is going to go mainstream. Ripple I already have people reaching out to me saying, "Oh, what is this Ripple company? Is that like Bitcoin?" So all of a sudden, just bad news is not necessarily bad for the press.
I absolutely agree, and I mean it's the reason why I'm still holding XRP. Nothing's changed in terms of that kind of underlying value that's being built. I think it's just another headache, unfortunately, we have to put up with, and it's just troubling times right now. But I think we make it through. And again, you have a lot of cryptos that I think are going to run into a brick wall at some point, whether regulations wipe them out because they don't have the infrastructure and the capital and all the resources that really Ripple does to see us through here. We're going to get regulations that are a pain for the crypto space here in the United States, at least. You have things that are going to hit a technical brick wall, and that's going to be a big issue for them. I like our trajectory, but again, it's just right now at this point in time, it's really just upsets me a little bit we're hitting this, but it's just part of the game. You got to overcome it.
Yeah, you really do have to overcome it. And I've heard people say, well, this could drag out 2 years. But What do you think about this? So somebody had brought the question up in one of our streams saying, do you think Brian Brooks was aware of the fact that this ruling may be coming down or got wind of it? Because when he announced that there in anywhere from I think 4 to 6 weeks we'd be getting some more clarity regarding regulations. Now that was probably in the works for months, right? They don't just say, hey, we're going to figure it out in the next 3 weeks. But do you think that Brian Brooks being the comptroller of the OCC, do you think he might have known about this in advance?
I think absolutely. I think every major player has known about this that has been going on, from the exchanges themselves. The Ripple obviously has known about this, and we know they've been working with the SEC trying to clear this up for some time, and they weren't able to work something out there. I think everyone's prepared for this. It's just in the short term, how are they going to act? Well, how are they going to respond to this situation? It affects everything, not just XRP. Eventually, hopefully, again, we can get a little bit of breathing room here and maybe get some safeguards out there for businesses and exchanges while they figure this all out. Because that's what it is, just figuring out how do we want to deal with crypto in the United States. Are there going to be some requirements if you want your crypto to be sold to the public, whatever it might be? All of that's going to roll out. Hopefully, they can minimize the damage while they do figure this all out, because it's going to be a little bit of a process, I'm sure.
Yeah, agreed. And so Sec had this question: what happens if XRP is deemed a security, particularly for those outside of the United States? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it affects the global market so much. I think it's just in the United States. If you're a business that's either located here or you are servicing U.S. customers, I think that's where this really affects you. And it's going to affect every single digital asset. We know we can go over the likeness to Ethereum, and the fact that it's not just corporations, it's any kind of enterprise that's trying to raise money from the public and further what they're doing. Ethereum's done that, the foundation, just the same as Ripple, the company, just the same as every single token out there. Every token says, we want to do XYZ and that's going to bring value. Well, under the SEC's, very limited guidance, everything would be a security. So they're going to have to figure out how to deal with this, because, of course, this is an important technology. Jay Clayton, the reptilian leader himself, has stated that this is going to be important for furthering banking and payments and really just our economy. We have to support this. And it's just trying to get a reasonable framework out in a reasonable amount of time without doing a ton of damage here. That's going to be the key. And everyone wants that. Look, Coinbase, Uphold, these different exchanges that are foreign that have U.S. customers, they want this resolved. They want to know, what rules do we have to follow, and we'll follow them because it's good business. But I have no idea how long this takes and how much damage they do in the meantime. But I think you're going to get a lot of pressure from business, from other regulatory agencies like the OCC, that want to roll this infrastructure out in a reasonable manner and not cause too much damage. Again, as an investor, uncertain times, but you have to keep an eye on that kind of long-term vision.
That's a good point. And I always noticed he had those reptilian eyes too. They were like that little weird kind of. I saw you put that tweet about his eyes. Yeah, that was a really good one. But look at this right here. Let's just throw this up on screen real quick here. David Schwartz put this out. He basically said, hey, the United States is one of the few countries where regulators will, after years of you operating in full light and day, of frequently updating them on everything you're doing, turn around and tell you that you should have known you were breaking decades-old laws all along. I think that one right there is pretty spot on, because, he's kind of right. The one company that we know that worked with regulators was Ripple. The one company we know that had a solid use case out of the gate was Ripple. So some of the allegations, I think, are very thin. The whole idea of Ripple not having a use case, what are your thoughts about that? They allege that Ripple created this token called XRP and really didn't have a clue what they were going to do with it, because their first two products didn't use blockchain, nor did they use XRP.
Well, I think the main thing here is just the SEC wants their hand in the cookie jar. They want to be part of this. If you're raising money, they want to cut, essentially. They want to retain their power. And not sure they know how to do that exactly. I think that's kind of where this comes from. But there's going to be some kind of, again, framework set up where they do retain power over this market, just like they do the stock market and everything else, where they claim to be protecting us. Oh, you can't buy Airbnb until it's $100 billion. Now you can. There's this
Right.
whole, racket that everyone has to run through, unfortunately. I see eventually crypto being the same. You're not going to be able to just come up with a token and start raising funds. It's just like within stocks, there's going to be some procedures. Maybe you have to put some of that, supply in some sort of foundation where there's reporting, ongoing reporting. Of course, with that will come fees and disclosures. It's going to be a real pain, to be honest. But it's going to be things like XRP that have a purpose where you're going to jump through those hoops because it has that ultimate value. You're not just doing a quick cash grab.
Nice. I wanted to share this a comment here. This is somebody who took liberty with your previous comment about will it affect globally if it is, in fact, XRP is deemed a security. It says, hey, this is Ozcan Yill. He says, Jungle, it's not true. One of the most powerful financial authorities, like the SEC, if they decide something, then the rest of the world will follow it. So the concern here is that a powerful U.S. ruling, which deems it a security, could have some ripple effects around the world. What do you think about that?
To some extent. I mean, I've said many times, especially when Chris Larsen, when he said, "Oh, we're just going to leave to Singapore, this and that," I said, "No way, that's going to happen." Of course, if you're doing a global payment system, and we know the dollar is weakening, it's going on its way out as a reserve currency, but make no mistake, it's going to be powerful for some time to come. And if you can't interact with dollars in the US, you're not much of a global payment force. So it's going to have to be worked out for sure. Do I expect that if the U.S. Really pushes this issue and U.S. exchanges delist XRP, does that mean that Binance is going to do that, or these Singapore exchanges are going to do that? I don't think so. I don't see it happening down in a long shot. I mean, look at the volume that's running through those exchanges. It just dwarfs what we have from a business perspective here in the United States, especially while really this is being worked out in the courts. They're not going to preemptively, like a U.S. business may, say, all right, we're going to go along with that and just, stop the halt trading. There's too much money on the line. I don't see any purpose. But again, for U.S. customers, I think they will in the short term, likely. And we don't know that, though. That's the other thing. People say, well, you think that. Why don't you just cash out and wait? I don't know. Coinbase may say, hey, we're not going to just jump at any whim just because you make accusations. That's not a good business practice. We're going to make you figure it out in court first. I don't think that's the way they go, but they may. We really don't know how this will play out. We're going to have to see. In life, again, you look at Bitcoin and Mt. Gox, or almost any investment, Tesla, where they had all the SEC problems and all their issues. Like, you kind of have to just see that long-term vision and weather it, because it's never going to be easy. Most people are going to buy high, sell low, and you're going to have to get around issues like this to make that big money. I feel I always thought something would come up. I didn't expect it to be this, but this is just kind of the way life works and the way investing works.
Yeah, nobody ever expects the Spanish Inquisition. So here's another great question. So this is from Berthold Jipping. If I'm butchering that, sorry, but he says, hey, I'm wondering if this ends in a settlement. Would the EU, European regulatory agency, go after Ripple next, since settlement can be seen as an admission of guilt?
Well, I mean, we saw everyone thinks they won't settle because for that reason. It's some admission of guilt. We've seen they already settled with FinCEN, which was probably at that time maybe even more serious because they weren't as well funded. And it was a serious issue because just now in 2020, they finished their last year of audit with FinCEN. Every year FinCEN comes in, they got to crack open their books. That was a major issue. They settled that out. And they came out in better space. We saw really a lot of the stuff that happened in, 17 and 18 was kind of a result of that. They had all their, in terms of knowing your customer and all that in place, and they seem much more, ready for the prime time because of that. I think it'll be the same thing here. They could settle. My only issue is unless the government of the United States takes this serious and is going to roll out some kind of frameworks for us through Congress, passing the actual laws. If that isn't going to happen fairly quickly, I think this thing's going to go the distance and they're going to shoot it off to the courts to try to get some clarity on some of these different issues. And again, you're trying to mold current laws that don't fit digital assets. Even that's not the perfect solution, sending it to the courts, because we don't have the right laws to make all of this work. But I think they will. Again, unless the U.S. government takes this serious and is like, we're passing some sort of crypto framework here in the short term, we can probably expect this to go all the way to the courts.
Yeah, and I think it is. I don't this could get dragged out for 2 years. I don't really see it. I especially see that they've got some big problems. Like you said, the early fine with FinCEN at the time could have just blew the company up. The fact that they've been going through these audits, like you mentioned, that and coming out clean, they'll bring that up. They'll bring it up. They'll say, hey, look, FinCEN, we're working with regulators. Meanwhile, the one organization that's been screaming for regulatory clarity has been Ripple, from full page ads in the New York Times to coming out with tweets. They're very public about it. And, that's why I absolutely love the response from Brad Garlinghouse. I loved reading that memo because he came to fight. He said, bring it on. Larsen's like, bring it on, because the first thing they said was, we could have settled this. We knew about it 30 days ago. They knew about it earlier because there had to have been discovery, because they're referencing internal emails, right? So they had to dump everything. So this has been going on for some time. People say, well, it's curious that right when Jay Clayton, left the building, that this thing drops. Yeah, timing was probably circumstantial, because he was also slated to leave 5 months from now, and he either chose or was showed the door, either one. But when this was going on, I mean, some of the stuff they allege in here, that's why I've been doing a teardown on it, because I want people to really see. It's kind of boring if you don't go through in this sort of a format. I've read through this a couple times, and each time it gets sillier to me, some of the assertions that they make in here. I wanted to bring up this comment here. This is from GDLT, who's also an awesome YouTuber. If you guys don't know, go check out his channel. He does some awesome coverage on this as well. It says the SEC collaborates with international regulators and has to in regards to what's going on with them and Ripple. SEC will get info from the UK FCA and not disagree with FCA's ruling of XRP not a security. And I think that's a really good point, because they're going to bring this up in court. Do you think this is going to have any strong standing that they bring up what's happened in the UK or Japan or in Europe or even Australia with regulations?
Well, I've said a couple times, and I think people take it the wrong way. I don't think it's going to be an automatic thing. I don't think they'll bring up just FinCEN and that's the end of it, or the UK and other areas. But I think it does help a lot, where you can bring up all this evidence and say, hey, look, these other US regulators treat it in this manner. Other countries treat it in this manner. I think it does build well to Ripple's case here. And one other quick thing, Chip, and I know it's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way with Brad making money and Chris making money. And, one of my favorite things about XRP is we have this great company driving real solutions. And part of that is having a CEO that ain't free. Part of that is having someone like, Chris Larsen on your board. That ain't free. David Schwartz, that guy don't work for free. One of the real things that I feel we're going to have real solutions is because we are bringing this money up and investing it in real things, and that costs money. Unfortunate, I get it. We're all sitting at a loss. These other people are making money, but we need them to get those real solutions rolled out. We need real developers and engineers and business people to broker these deals. At the end of the day, this is what I would say. Let's see what they do. If Brad Garlinghouse, Chris Larsen, and all these people guide us through this, they're worth their weight in gold many times over. If they don't, well, then they got overpaid. They weren't the right people for the job. And the last thing I would say on this is, when I look at, in comparison to what we've seen with other projects, the price of XRP went to $3.80, and they didn't unload on us. They didn't unload every XRP they had. They did it in a controlled manner. They're playing the long game. And I think when you compare that to a lot of other stuff out there, and there's a fine line there to draw, where is the okay for founders and executives to take profits? We don't have rules, unfortunately. Obviously, we look at something like Sushi Swap. 7 days in, the guy sold his whole supply. You look at Charlie Lee telling us, hey, hodl for the moon, this is what it feels like. And he sells every Litecoin he owns. Of course, that's offensive. I don't see what Ripple did, regardless of the dollar amount, is offensive. It's small percentage to the overall volume. And I think they really are trying to build something. Again, you don't get that kind of talent for free. Guide us through this. And hey, double, triple, 10 times what you took out. I don't care. You're worth it. Let's get this job done.
No, I agree with that 100%. And one of the things that I've asserted is the fact that we should be, as XRP holders, we should be damn glad we've got two brilliant men at the helm here. Chris Larsen, who has got a phenomenal track record. So does Brad. Anytime they represent the company extremely well. Larsen's also, what they forget about is he's donated a lot to charity, way more than most CEOs that I'm aware of. Back in the day. Now he's the chairman, but I mean, I'm super pleased that these guys are running the show. And I was reading an article the other day. The name escapes me, but there was a company that said, and it was a company that I didn't really know, wasn't on my radar, and it said this company's CEO makes over $100 million a month. And I'm thinking, what? Okay, so in the grand scheme of things, 150 million here, 200 million there. Look, CEOs, chairman, board members, they get paid a lot of money. How about being a board member? How'd you like to be the board member of Apple? You show up now at the Zoom calls 4 times a year, right? You have your quarterly calls. You show up. You may say something, you might not say something. You're paid pretty handsomely for that, and you don't even have anything to do with the company. You're just sitting on the board, and they're using your name basically. And they usually pick prominent people out there. So if you get to sit on some boards out there, there's people that sit on the board that also have to get compensated. But you have board members for a reason. It's for guiding the company, and that's why I'm really happy that these two are guiding the company. And here's something else too. So M. Blair brings up the fact that the Tether lawsuit date is coming up in January. That's another thing where I've seen a couple people come out, be very outspoken about this, about Tether. What happens if Tether falls, and what is that going to do to the rest of the marketplace? Did I lose you, Jungle? Okay, in a second. Let me go here. Jungle, are you there? I lost you. Well, I might have lost you there, but pop in. I don't see your microphone. I know sometimes when we do this, okay, he'll pop back in here. So let me just go ahead and, yeah, he'll pop right back in here. But the whole idea of the Tether lawsuit, a date in January coming up, I saw one of these analysts on Yahoo News just going crazy about this whole thing about Tether, because Tether, it's a stable coin, and they're alleging that they have the backup with USD. Right? They're saying they have the backup with USD. Do they have it? Is it really there? Nobody really knows. We're going to find out. I mean, when this comes into play here. So we're going to find out. I want to get to a couple other comments here. Hey, Jungle, thank you very much. I know you had to pop out. I know that he's actually working. So thank you, Jungle, for popping in here. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you for jumping in and answering some questions. Always great to hear from you, man. Really appreciate that. And let's look at this. The Bank of England, this is Michael O2. Bank of England and America and SBI can distribute all XRP to thousands of branches worldwide for its banks, and I'm not selling. I like that. And I've alleged too, I'm like, nothing's going to shake me out. The weak hands, people are going to have, all kinds of issues here. They're going to have all kinds of, I don't care what they do. I mean, even if it's deemed a security, you're not gonna slow it down. But I think the bigger problem that I have here is the whole idea of stifling innovation. And I bring it back to, and I think it's important to note that in the early 90s, mid 90s, when the internet was just starting to get chug along, and people weren't really sure what was going to happen with the internet. Back in the day, you had these really lame websites, and every company said, "Oh, now we need a company website." But then we realized we could do banking, we could do commerce, we could do all kinds of things that just expanded and enlightened our lives. And what did they want to do? What did Congress want to do here in the U.S.? They wanted to regulate it. What did Bill Clinton say and Speaker of the House at the time say? No, we shouldn't regulate this. We shouldn't regulate this at all. We really need to keep it open and free. And this came up during the Obama administration as well, where they wanted to go back in and regulate it, because this is what governments do. They kill everything. They want to regulate it to death, and you got to get rid of regulations. When you lose regulations, you see what happens when a lot of regulation gets crushed, or at least gets thrown out the window. It's the best thing you can have. And every country faces this exact same problem, is that the people that go to represent you, the people, and they're off there figuring out how much money and where they're going to go to dinner and what the next cool party is to join. And they're really not thinking a lot about what's going to happen to you as an individual, right? So this is... I want to put this comment up here. This is Jim McSee. All cryptos will be affected by the SEC versus Ripple. XRP have ducks in a line with regulations and rules, tried and tested around the globe to survive. The ones that haven't prepped will suffer badly. And I think that's right. I think what Jungle alluded to is the fact that a lot of people out there are not going to be able to really weather the storm. Think about it. They're not going to be able to weather the storm. And you're going to see a lot of them crumble. Whether it's deemed a security or not, it's going to be very sticky, and we're going to have to see exactly what happens. Want to get this other comment? This is a good one too. Leonard Gonzalez says, hey, this is a case of BitConnect all over again. Yeah, so, history sort of repeats itself, right? And you even go back to the kick with the kin token, and you look at them, they came hard at the SEC. I thought it was a misstep at the time. I'm like, look, I know they're young bucks, you're young, beating their chest, like, come on, SEC, we'll crush you, we'll bring everything we have and everything else. And they were yapping like that. I'm like, maybe you want to just step it back a little bit. We don't want to be that brazen going after them like that. But they were all like, come on, let me at them. And, at the end, they only ended up with a $5 million fine. What could have potentially happened there? Could have been it could have been really bad, right? It just was a fine. And make no mistake, there's going to be a way, and people talk about the 5-year statute of limitations. There's going to be a real way that the SEC is going to figure out a way. Because part of what this is you pull up a lawsuit, you bring somebody in. This is a real fast way to get the regulations. Otherwise, you drag it on. Now, the SEC has said for a long time, and I kind of fall into this camp where they said, look, we're making regulations around this or giving clarity takes time. Now, the wrong thing that can happen, or I guess the worst thing that can happen to any country, is they come out too quick out of the gate, not quite fully understanding and digesting what regulations mean. They make a misstep. It's a lot harder to undo and like, oops, just kidding. Like they can come out and say, for example, this blah, 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 and you can't do this. And all of a sudden they crush you and they stifle the innovation. So I do believe that by the SEC not giving guidance and clarity, what they really did was it was actually a blessing in disguise, because it allowed innovation to just explode, and okay, we lost companies in the U.S. moved out of the area, right? They moved to Bahamas, they moved to Europe, Eastern Europe. They went other places because they're like, we're not going to put up with this, right? They had to go out and figure a way. But by the SEC not giving guidance, guess what they did? They started a revolution. Probably don't realize it, but now we're in a different place than we were 3 years ago, 5 years ago. Why? Because Japan. Right on. Japan is riding this thing. They are one of the best countries in figuring out the regulations and figuring out how this can work. So you can leverage that, right? FinCEN, you can leverage that what came before. Now you look at the UK, you look at Europe. They're not playing around. Look, they're looking. Don't think they don't look at other countries and find out what they're doing and kind of borrow and steal. Now the SEC has a lot to pull from. Also Australia, right? And there's also the threat of this if you want to get into politics, there's this dominance thing, right? So you have China that's trying to release their CBDC. Why? Because they want to be the first out there. They want to get rid of. So this has far-reaching probably further than, let's say, this lawsuit alleges. And it's not just the U.S. It's Europe. It's including the U.K. It's also every country, really. I mean, every continent's going to be affected. You have Australia. You have all the Asian countries, which are also pretty far ahead on the regulation side. And right off the coast here, we've got the Bahamas that's using the sand dollar. It's a small country. It's a beautiful country, amazing people. I love it. It's like if I could drive there in an hour and a half. That's how close it is, right off the ocean here. And they are going and moving ahead. Then you have Bermuda. Bermuda, you have one of the youngest premiers in history over there, who was going all in on blockchain. Now you see blockchain companies relocating there because they're making it friendly. So I do believe that in the greater scheme of things, this was absolutely a blessing, because you can't put the genie back in the bottle, right? Thank God for Bitcoin. Bitcoin paved the way for the altcoins, because if Bitcoin wasn't successful, it would have been a tough road to have any other coin take off. But the concept of what Bitcoin was and the potential threat that it was to the status quo, let's not kid ourselves. This is a threat to the status quo in every country. You now have these digital assets which are growing up, being powerful. Who's buying them? Well, you have institutional investors, but who do we really have buying them? Us, right? right? The consumer. We're buying them. It's going to be the greatest wealth transfer in the history of the world. Now, nothing's going to go ahead and stop that, but Bitcoin was all anarchy. It was like anarchy. We don't want any form of government. We don't want banks. We want to be. Ripple took a look at that and they said, what can we learn from Bitcoin and some of the shortcomings? Well, we can make it faster for one. We could certainly make it a better all-around asset, right? Faster, quicker, cheaper. Go ahead and try to move some Ethereum. See what your gas fees look like. Go ahead and try to process a Bitcoin thing and try to go ahead and move $1 million and see you pay pennies. Okay, it's a phenomenal use case. It is spectacular. But who does that upset? One of the reasons I've always asserted the fact that banks want to get on board with the XRP and using Ripple's software suite is because they like one thing, and what they're really good at is making money. They're always trying to find out ways to expand and ways to bring new revenue streams into the organization. I can't think of any better ones that instead of using a slow, clunky Swift system and having to fund Nostro and Vostro accounts, wouldn't it be great if you had this on-demand liquidity? Wouldn't it be great if you had instant settlement? And wouldn't it be great if you could charge almost the same amount of money that you were already charging for it? Or let's say you cut it in half and you were still making over 100% more of what you were. But what if you're not sure? What if you're a U.S. bank named Bank of America? What if you're just not 100% sure and you're tiptoeing around it because you're Bank of America, you're Wells Fargo, and you're getting basically slammed and fined out the wazoo every single year? Go ahead and Google it. Bank of America fines. They're into the billions of dollars. Go to Wells Fargo, even greater. And Wells Fargo is the #1 largest bank in the United States. And this is worldwide. You see this happening. But as so things happen in the U.S., and this was a great comment that we put up on the screen earlier, as goes the U.S., a lot of other countries. Now, this is going to, what I like is the other countries didn't wait for the U.S. The other countries are like, we're moving forward. And they're the ones setting the precedent. Thank God for Europe coming together and saying, we're going to go ahead and we're going to look forward and we're going to pass this, some clarity about regulation, what we're going to do. The UK, all these other countries, you can't stop that. You can't undo that. And that's precedent's already been set. That boat has already left the harbor. And, I also have been doing some reading on some other, crypto mom. She penned a piece, and just a really brilliant writer. I mean, the way she looks at the XRP and the way or not XRP, I should say cryptocurrencies, the way she looks at it, you always wonder why she put in charge of the SEC and her safe harbor rule, where she wanted to allow 3 years for a company in the United States to sort of give them some runway to be able to build a product on a blockchain. But you have 3 years. You have a drop dead date where you have to be able to build a use case, test a use case, and implement it within 3 years, and boom, you're golden. So she's giving opinions like this inside the SEC, and then you got Jay Clayton. And I don't think it's just Jay Clayton. I think there's probably a separation inside the SEC. You got the one side over here, which is your litigators, your attorneys, that they love going after and just filing lawsuits. Then over here you've got Crypto Mom, and you got everybody that's like pro. Here, I wanted to pull up here. I'm going to look for it. Yeah, so you have Elad Roisman. I had to grab the name. Elad Roisman, who is now running the SEC. This is somebody who's been pro-crypto. So what an interesting turn of events, right? It almost seems a little too scripted, doesn't it? When you think about it, a little too scripted. This stuff's happening out of nowhere. Jay Clayton's leaving the building, and as I stated, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. And I think a lot of people, we heard Jungle say, reptilian. We see a little bit of that reptilian in those eyes. Yeah, for sure, no doubt. Let's see if there's any other comments in here. Here, let's look at this one right here. So Will Cass says the Tether lawsuit, with Bittrex and Polynex, I always stumble on that. Polynex, I can never say that right, were added as defendants, been ongoing since 2019. I don't think it's going to be a quick fix for XRP unless they settle. That's true. It's possible that you could find a settlement happening there someplace. It's potential. Yeah. I see G's talking about comment here. I'm not sure what he's going to. Here we go. Let's look at Neoscepter X said, I just bought more. Brad Garlinghouse just announced live that 90% XRP is owned and traded overseas, and he would love to keep Ripple and XRP in the US. Yeah, and this goes back to the whole idea of stifling the innovation. You know, the whole idea of putting the innovation down, slapping it down. I think it would be a huge detriment to companies in the United States. So there is a yearning, believe it or not, on the SEC side to get clarity on this as well, because the fastest way to get it is through a lawsuit, and I don't think it's going to drag on. I don't think it can. I especially think if other clarity starts coming out, if you have Brooks that comes out and says, hey, by the way, he starts making other points. Now we also have, it's amazing since all this happened, you had Brian Brooks, the comptroller of the OCC. He came out and said, oh, banks can custody crypto. Whoa, banks can custody crypto? So we're bringing this into the mainstream. Now, would banks custody securities? I think Jungle made some very good points early on. The bank, they want their cut, right? Not necessarily the SEC. The government always wants its cut. If there's some source of revenue happening somewhere, every government in the world wants to stick their hand in that cookie jar, and they want to pull out a pretty good amount for themselves. The real threat that cryptocurrency has to I would say the establishment, the central banks, the regulators, the lawmakers, is the fact that the more it goes unregulated and untaxed and everything else, and we even saw the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, which is the governing body for taxation in the United States, come out and make they started dripping this out. First, when you filed your taxes, they wanted to know, hey, have you ever heard of cryptocurrency? And now they're like, hey, did you hear about it? Have you owned it? Do you custody it? Do you blah, blah, blah? And then you got this new rule coming out with FinCEN saying that they're diving into tracking self-custody wallets, right? So you have a Ledger or an Elipal or one of these where they want to know, similar to how banks work. If you do a $10,000 transaction, you do a $9,000 transaction, it's not going to really be looked at. But any bank is under scrutiny. If somebody's transferring $10,000 in funds, they want to look at it and see it. Why? Because is it a taxable event? It's pretty much what they get into for using that. Conrad Arndt says, hey, I love Ripple, using it all the time in one form of OnePay FX. Made transactions for my company so much easier, but then again, I'm European. Don't know how Ripple works in the US. Well, Conrad, it's not working great, but I mean, it does. The company itself works. I mean, look at the innovation coming out of San Francisco. And this other video that I'm going to drop, I'm going to talk a little bit. It's actually on our channel, guys. Like, subscribe to this channel. But if you can, did I freeze? There you go. I think I froze for a second. But go ahead and like and subscribe here, because the thing is that Ripple is a company, coming out of the Silicon Valley, right? So you have the San Francisco area. You go all the way down to Mountain View. That's where Google is, where Apple is. There's that whole stretch where you have all these tech companies, and so you have some people are leaving. They're leaving California now. Somebody put out a chart the other day which showed California, or it showed actually the whole United States, and it showed the top 50 fastest growing cities. There wasn't one city in California. There wasn't one city in New York, right? Why? People are leaving in droves. You know what? Turns out that people like their money. It's a really weird thing. They don't like to be taxed for stuff, right? They enjoy hanging on to their money. And when the more you tax people, the more they say like, hey, if I just simply moved from California to Texas or Florida and they don't have a state tax, I'm saving 7-8% off right off the top. And if they have friendlier business rules, I'm saving even more money. So the regulations certainly have a potential impact, and they certainly can hurt what's going on. So why don't we jump back? I don't see if anybody has any questions here. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Let's jump back in here real quick I want to add this back in here. Let's jump into this. I know we took a little bit of a break, but I think it's healthy having this dialogue and looking at this. So again, we'll do a deep dive on this pretty much every single day. Want to break this down, get some more comment. So going back to this, line number 93, Ripple conducted the market sales by paying at least 4 entities commissions, paid in XRP for executing Ripple's XRP sales to the public on digital asset trading platforms. So they're alleging here, so now they're starting to break it down even further here. They're saying one of these entities is based in New York, was registered with the SEC as a broker-dealer until December of 2019. One of the other entities is also based in the United States, while another entity is international based, but it has its offices in the United States, right? So they're not naming the companies, they're talking about entities here. And to increase the market sales throughout the offering, Ripple has also directed all of its readers of its website to information about how to buy XRP. And if you remember, early days, go back 3-4 years ago, it was not easy to buy XRP. You had to buy some Bitcoin, you had to transfer it somewhere, you had to do it wasn't like now you click a button. It's like now it's almost like one click on Amazon. Click a button, boom, you can set up buys for, automated buys on different platforms. It's gotten so much better. Look at Binance. I think they just celebrated their 3rd birthday. We think of Binance like they've been around forever. Now they're 3 years old. Here we go. We have to increase these market sales. So how do you buy them? So now they're alleging the fact that Ripple put on their website where you could buy XRP. It provided the digital asset trading platforms, including some with principal places of business in the United States on which investors could make those purchases. So they're going a little bit deeper into the argument. They talk about Ripple's direction and the intermediaries, such as the market maker, were ensured that market sales were programmatically set to not exceed certain percentage of XRP overall. Daily trading volume in Ripple referred to the market sales as programmatic sales. On occasion, Ripple employees or the market maker consulted Larsen and Garlinghouse as to parameters for conducting Ripple's market sales. Then we get to the defendant's public distribution through the institutional sales. So what they're going on about here is the fact that, okay, we've broken it down into going after Ripple as an organization. We've gone into alleging that Brad Garlinghouse, Chris Larsen were selling off XRP to personally enrich themselves, and they draw the allegation back to Ripple being able to fund its operations, which we know they had investors and they certainly had other funding. Since at least 2013, Ripple and Larsen tried to make institutional sales to obtain funding for Ripple's operations and develop a speculative trading market in XRP. Okay, so here they go back to it. The fact that Ripple was attempting to sell XRP, didn't have a use case, didn't even know what they were going to do with it. It's an absurd allegation, but they're saying the whole reason that they had this coin was, and X wasn't called XRP back then, but it was open coin. They were trying to go ahead and just sell it any way they possibly could because they needed to have a scenario where they were going to make some money, right? And what was the reason they're going to do that? To fund Ripple's operations, because without it, they're alleging here that Ripple would never have survived. So Ripple viewed the institutional sales as a linchpin of its strategy to generate speculative interest in XRP from public investors. And again, this is what is alleged and the complaint by the SEC. So as Ripple stated in a document published on its website on January 24, 2017, which Ripple Agent 2 authored. Now again, they break down who these Ripple agents are. Let's see if we can find out who Ripple Agent 2 is. Let me go back to what page are we on here. We are on 17. And let's go back to where they bring that up. Where is it? Here we go. So these are all the people that they talk about inside. Here we are. So Ripple Agent 2 is who? None other than, Miguel Villas, right? So Ripple Agent 3, Patrick Griffin, who they also start talking about a little bit more in here when they're talking about the other allegation that they allege is the fact that Ripple also used XRP as compensation. And we'll get into that in a little bit. That comes up. So after, let me go back to the page. I believe we're on page 14. Maybe we weren't 17. I should remember the page number we were on. Let's see. Defendant's public distribution. Let's see if we can find this together here. Here we go. Okay, so guys, would I say we were on page 17? Seem to have lost my place here for a second here. Yeah, I think we're past that. Yep. Let's see. Did we get past this one? Holy cow. I hate when I lose my place here. I wish there's a way to hit the back button. There is no back button here. But guys, you guys remember the page number, go ahead and throw it in there. Because I did mention it. I don't know which page number. It all starts blending in and looking exactly the same. That's the issue when you start looking at these complaints. That's why they put a number next to it. because you go like, well, where did they put that 1? You can reference it by the number in the complaint and also by the section. So this is D100. You go right to D, you can find it right there inside of the complaint. So again, we talked about public distribution through international sales. So Ripple, through its agents, including Larsen and Garlinghouse, offered and sold XRP for investment to influential players in the digital asset space, including the market makers, dealers, blockchain-focused private investment funds looking to create an XRP-based fund or include XRP in the fund. These market makers were also typically not registered with the SEC. So now you see what they're doing is they're alleging the fact that there were other people involved in this that were also saying, thank you for that, Larry Dudley, appreciate that, 17. I like when you guys are listening. That's awesome. So what they're alleging right here, and it's good because I'm on that page, which is great, but they're saying here that they're bringing other players in here. Not only did they go ahead and sell XRP, and they didn't disclose the SEC that and registered as a security, but there were other entities involved as well, and that's what they're alleging right here. It said these markets are typically not registered with the SEC. With a few exceptions, Ripple conducted the institutional sales through the XRP2 fund, which applied for a license with the New York Department of FS, what I remember, I forget what that is, to engage in the virtual currency business activity of selling units of Ripple's virtual currency. So what are they doing there? So that's weird. Geez, that looks like a government body that regulates, right? That it looks like you registered with a public company here. So to the institutional sales, other accredited investors who are purchasing XRP for speculative purposes. So what the reason they use that word speculative, they're trying to tie this back to the Howie test, right? That the fact is, you as a security, you are purchasing something with the hope that it will increase in value, that it will, you're buying it with the idea that it will increase in value. And they're talking about the speculation, and they're naming that right there. So from 2013 to present, Ripple has made institutional sales to at least 26 institutional investors. Now, they also reference this. This is interesting here because Ripple made many of the XRP institutional sales at a discount from XRP market prices. Now, we've always known they've done this. They've done this at a discount. Some of them are described below, bought XRP at discounts between 4 and 30% of the market price, right? Now, what they're going to get in here, what they allege a little bit further on, and again, we're getting close. We got time left. What they're alleging here is the fact that they were given this XRP, they were sold it at a discount, but they didn't have anything in place when it came to restrictions. So in other words, if I were to say, let me get Organic FUD who's in the chat, let me go ahead and gift you 1 million XRP, right? And I don't put any restrictions on it. I don't say there's a cap on it. You got 12 months in which you can sell it, right? But you sell it right away. It hits your wallet and you sell it. I mean, so inside of a minute you can go ahead and sell it. These are some other allegations that they're bringing up that they're getting into right now. So the agreements governing Ripple's institutional sales typically provided no restrictions on the buyer's ability to resell XRP, provided only brief lockup periods during which the investor could not sell its XRP, typically from 3 to 12 months, or limited the buyer's ability to resell quantities of XRP that could potentially lower XRP's trading price. In other words, Ripple expected that most, if not all, institutional sales buyers would sell their XRP in the public markets and tried to protect XRP's trading price by limiting the amounts that could be sold by any time over a period. Now, this is a big allegation that they're making here, and what they're attempting to do here is to say that Ripple did actually go ahead and put some lockup periods where it was restricted. But what they're alleging is that most of the time, Ripple had no lockup periods. Ripple said, hey, as soon as it hits your wallet, you can go ahead and sell it. And what they're trying to allege here is the fact that Ripple was somehow controlling the price or affecting the price of XRP. Now, as the bag holders of the most stable coin next to Tether, I mean, we've been stable. We've already stabilized at around 28, 29, 30 cents, right? Yeah, we had some shifts here and there, but you look, Ripple's price, Ripple affecting the price is preposterous. And the fact that Ripple has any control over that, you look at the validator nodes. I mean, they don't have. Recently, they just passed they had one of their rule changes, and the Ripple validator voted no on it. But guess what? They don't have. It's totally decentralized. Even though Ripple didn't think it was a good rule change and was put up for a vote, doesn't matter. It's what the rest of the community thinks. So by thinking that Ripple somehow has some effect on the price, whether we know that a billion was coming out of escrow and being sold on the institutional market. This is nothing new. It's not something we just discovered. And certainly the SEC's known about this as well. It's not something that was something new here. And on June 12, 2017, Larsen and other employees met with an investment fund, Institutional Investor A, which Ripple Agent 2 described, this is VS, described in a June 2017 email to Ripple Agent 3, this is the senior VP of Ripple, as a 12 billion alternative asset hedge fund based out of New York. Okay, so here they go. So this is where everybody says, "Oh, the timing's weird," the timing is curious. I mean, when did the timing really ever happen? Did the timing happen recently? Well, look, the fact is there was discovery here. If you look right here, you see right that they actually had. Close this up here. They're going through emails. That was all provided. So the SEC said, we want an email dump, we want this, we want that. They had this. So they're going back to these emails, and this is what they were building and really forging their case around and really looking a deeper dive on this. In 2017, Ripple sold approximately 14.8 million XRP for 2.1 million to institutional investor A. I'm not going to get into a lot of this stuff. What they're talking about here, because I think a lot of this is somewhat boring. Institutional investor B paid Ripple 6.4 billion, the first 500,000, and then ended up obtaining a 10% market. So they're drilling in the fact that they were able to get discounts and they didn't have any lockup. Ripple did not restrict the entity's ability to resell XRP on the market in any way, and this is what they have an issue with. They did say that in some cases they did, but they're alleging that the whole idea that they were able to sell no lockup periods. In September 24th in 2018, Ripple entered into an agreement, as amended, Institutional Investor C sales agreement, signed by Garlinghouse with a Japanese entity. Wonder who that could be. That described itself as operating sales and exchange service of crypto assets to offer safe and secure transactions of crypto assets for as many people as possible. And I want to go through, because a lot of this is a lot of the same type of stuff. And they go to say that Ripple sold over 170 million worth of XRP, approximately 719 million XRP, to institutional investors. And they're bringing this up. But this chart kind of really gives you the period of time here. If you look on the left side here, we got the years going down. So from 2013 through 2019, and we see 2020 through the third quarter, which this was compiled from. You can look and you can see these are the funds, and this is the whole basis of the allegation that they're making here, stating that Ripple was going ahead and selling a token XRP that they didn't know what use case they had, if any, and it was all speculative, and they were selling it as an unregistered security, and they're totaling everything up. So these were the funds that were raised. These were the amounts right here. So you got the amount of XRP sold. This is how much they raised in capital. And if you look down there, that's a big scary number right there, but that is 1,388,227,062. And that's what they're saying. So they're saying under E here, the defendants of other XRP distributions and listing of XRP on digital trading platforms. So at times, rather than selling direct XRP into the market to fund its operation, Ripple funded its dual XRP market creating and the company financing goals by transferring XRP to third parties as compensation. Ripple understood that these parties would in turn sell the XRP into the public market, often explicitly dictating the terms under which the parties could make these sales. So there are 5 types of sales and distributions of XRP in return for cash. And I think what we'll do is I want to take a few more questions, and then I think what we're going to do is we're going to go into part 3 tomorrow, because again, there's more to break down in this whole thing, and then we'll do a summary where we'll sum everything up, and you're starting to see the trends here. You're starting to see exactly what their allegations are and how it's built around there and how they're trying to craft their argument in this complaint. So from Sine Nomin says, this is all smoke and mirrors. Ripple and the SEC were bound by a tolling agreement to do expire 30th of December. Essentially means both parties wanted to come together with an agreement without going to court. Okay, so I don't know. I don't know about that, but that seems very, very interesting on its face. So let's see what else we have here. So this one comes from the Steve-O experience. Do you think that there'll be a difference in a Trump presidency or a Biden presidency for XRP? Understanding Trump issued X order for Ripple and Coinbase. The issue here is I don't know how much the way our government is set up here in the United States. A lot of the stuff that you think would have happened under one administration or another, stuff that was initiated under the Obama administration, certainly for in favor of crypto. That was 5.5, 6 years ago. And let me take a drink of water here. So yeah, 5 or 6 years going back. The problem is that our checks and balances, right? So we have Congress. Congress is composed of two entities. You have the House of Representatives. House of Representatives is responsible for the purse strings, so to speak. They're the ones that create the bills and pass the bills, anything having to do with money. Then you have the Senate. The Senate is the one, there's a lot of different things the Senate can do, but again, the Senate can initiate a bill, bring it back to the House. House has to approve it. Then it goes to the president for signing. Now, if there was regulatory, I would say like the token taxonomy, if that were to make its way in, and certainly we've seen a lot of bills come up through the system, this is really Congress is doing. The president can veto. So would a Biden, someone like Joe Biden, who would they be in favor of a bill that, or making something law that provided the clarity, that you had overwhelming, I would say, success in the House and the Senate? Probably, it depends on the personal opinion of whether they thought it was a good thing for growth markets and a growth for the United States. And then for a Trump presidency, I would say the same thing, right? Now you have the House of Representatives that's controlled by the Democrats party, and you got the Congress, the other side of Congress, the Senate, which is controlled by the Republicans, and that could be up in play just because there's this runoff election that's happening in Georgia. But I'm not sure it really matters. The issue is that you've got these, you got Congress, you have the president, and you have the judiciary branch being the Supreme Court, which seems to be asleep at the moment. I don't think they are doing much of anything. They don't seem to be getting involved in much these days. What else do we have here? Chi-Town XRP says, hey, Ripple is going to move home base, no doubt. Too frustrating with bureaucrats tugging on you. That's a good point. I mean, this is what we've been talking about. These bureaucrats, they don't really represent the people. They're going everywhere. And the fact is that I'm kind of with Jungle. I always thought it was, saying we're going to move was all like, hey, come on, we need some clarity over here. We've been screaming about it for 7 going on 8 years now, and we've had no regulatory clarity, right? And Ripple is one of the few companies that's actually been doing it. We took a look at David Schwartz's earlier comment, which I don't know if it's worth bringing up again, but I think it's funny in ways, but it's kind of sad in others. So if you look at this and you see, Schwartz said the United States is one of the few countries where regulators will, after years of you operating in full light of day and frequently updating them everything you're doing, registering with the right entities, paying a fine to FinCEN because you made a misstep, then they go ahead and turn around and tell you that you should have known you were breaking decades-old laws all along, right? And Chi-Town's bringing this up. It's frustrating. There's no doubt that it's frustrating, us having to deal with that. But I feel very optimistic. I'm super incredibly happy the fact that we have Garlinghouse running the helm. I'm always fascinated. Now, I don't agree with Brad Garlinghouse on some things, but I got to tell you, as somebody who's leading the corporation, he, I think Larsen provided the right leadership at the time, and I think Larsen is continuing to provide that leadership from the as a board member, right, and a co-founder of Ripple in general. But I think that Brad Garlinghouse, we're proud of him, right? We see him go on like, CNBC or one of these international shows and start talking about he's one of the greatest representatives. Not every CEO can go ahead and frame an argument or can certainly say a lot with little words. He's very, very, very versed in the communication skills. And I look at him and say, you know what? I can't think of anybody else I'd want to be running this company. So with that in mind, I wanted to say thank you guys. We're going to do this again tomorrow. We got a lot to jump into and break down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue to go through this. There's a lot of other things that are popping up and people being vocal. If you go down below, there's a link to the other channel. I don't know, Jeff, if you're still watching, if you can drop it in the chat too, but or somebody else wants to drop it, click on it, subscribe to our other channel. These are like shorter takes, where Jeff and I will go ahead and break something down. Jeff did an excellent video today, 17 minutes. I didn't even know it was that long because it was so, the arguments he was making there were phenomenal. I loved the video this morning. You guys would check it out. It's a really good watch. It makes a lot of great points in that video too. Again, framing around the SEC, but more along the lines of banks. Like, subscribe, click that notification bell. If you don't click that bell, you might not know when we do a live stream on this channel. So we have live streaming here on the live channel. We call the other one the standard channel, and that's where we do the short uploads, right? Real consumable stuff. Sometimes my videos are 5, 6, 7 minutes long. So you can get in, get out, and it's not a lot of stuff there. So I wanted to... Yeah, this is a good point here. One last point. So Ozcan Yield says, the board members of the New York Stock Exchange listed companies can't sell their stocks whenever they want. There are strict regulations, and enrichment through unfair competition is a crime. No, you're making a good point here, but what they have, the one benefit that the New York Stock Exchange has is very, very clear regulations, right? They have clarity, right? So the SEC says, hey, we know exactly what we're going to do. Don't step over the boundary, especially if you're a publicly traded company. You have very rigid rules that you need to make sure that you stay in. But crypto is like the Wild West right now, and that's one of the great reasons this lawsuit or complaint is hitting, because it's just allegations. You can delist it all you want, but this is allegations. Until it goes to a court of law or it gets dismissed or whatever, it's always going to be just allegations. That's all it's ever going to be. So with that being said, thank you for showing up today. Really appreciate you guys. Again, what makes this worthwhile are your comments. We're going to workshop this together this whole entire week. We're going to dive through it. And, feel free to tweet us at On The Chain. You can look us up, or you can reach out to either myself or Jeff. But send us stuff. You want us to talk about stuff on a live stream, we'll go ahead and do it. That's all I got. Chip out. I'll see you on the next one.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.